Ask Dr. Love podcast. Today, we're going to talk about what it is that you need to know about an emotional enema. Today is Monday, and we do a daily podcast every day, Monday to Friday from 11 to 11:20. And what is the point of the podcast? The point of the podcast is to bring you information that can improve your life. And that's why we call it Ask Dr. Love, about health, Asian medicine, food therapy, and your health. So there's lots of relationship advice out there. Not those Dr. Loves, Dr. Chi Love. So my name is George Xavier Love, and Love is my real last name. I didn't make it up. I'm not Jamie Turndorf. I'm not Clarence Williams III. I'm not Edward Johnson. This is the real and the one and only Dr. Love. And I'm a doctor of Oriental medicine, licensed in the state of Florida since 1986. That's a long time, in case you can't do the math. So the issue at hand is, what can we do to alleviate the fear and the anxiety that increases our cortisol levels that make us vulnerable to an attack by virus, parasites, bacteria, and fungi, or funguses. Doesn't matter how you pronounce it. So the issue at hand is, how do we take an emotional enema? And we're going to cover this Friday night, 7 p.m. It's a free webinar. You're going to have to register for the free webinar. Registration is free, but you're going to have to pay for the replay. So go to patreon.com/Dr. Chi Love, DrQILOVE. And if you found this podcast, which I hope you share with your friends, it's going to be rebroadcast on Spotify, on iTunes, on Radio Play, and you can find it at anchor.fm/Ask Dr. Love. This is the Ask Dr. Love podcast. And the internet is acting weird. So your internet may go in and out because so many people are home, and as a result, there's overloads, there's certain bottlenecks at certain points. So my team is occupied in trying to get the other aspects of the internet back up so we can be seen on both IG and YouTube. Right now, we're only on Facebook Live. So you guys on Facebook, you are the beneficiaries. Now, why do we need an emotional enema? Because you're emotionally constipated. You stuff your feelings. You hold everything in. You don't give yourself permission to express your feelings. And on the flip side of that is an emotional diarrhea. Is people are like, they're always expressing. And we call those people no filter. She doesn't have a good filter. She just regurgitates whatever feelings she's having at that moment, and she's spewing that all over. I said she, but there's guys who do it too. So the issue for you is, how can I put that in order? So you're supposed to ask questions, but don't have our screen up today, so I can't see your questions. So hopefully we will get the questions answered, and I'm just going to keep talking. What's the difference between emotional diarrhea and emotional constipation? And then what can I help you do to put all that into balance? So the first thing we're going to learn is acutapping. So when you are angry, fearful, anxious, worried, sad, depressed, you have a tendency to compress, and then the blood doesn't flow, the oxygen doesn't flow, nutrients don't flow, and everything kind of comes to a standstill. So what we want to do with our acutapping is to break the neural patterns of addiction to pain and suffering. So we use the word suffering, and it's an elongation of the word suffering. It has many meanings. Okay, so there are people who are really suffering, who are homeless on the street, don't know where their next meal is. There are people who have open sores, open wounds that won't heal. That's real suffering. There's people whose children hate them, or people who were abused by their parents. That's real suffering. But then again, even if you had loving parents, and even if you had everything handed to you on a silver platter, you can still suffer. You can still be unsatisfied. You can still be dissatisfied. You can still feel unloved, unwanted, unnourished, even if you have all your material things. So we call that duksha, or dissatisfaction. So there's suffering, and there's dissatisfaction, and then there's unfulfilled. So there's elaborate, there's a plethora of meaning of suffering. So my job, it's a vow that I took in 1978 to end suffering. I took the vows of a bodhisattva. I became a Tibetan Buddhist in 1978. And I was initially, there's 5 different sects of Buddhism, and I took vows in the Nyingma, the Sakya, and the Kagyu sect. So there's 5 different sects. I took vows in 3 of them for Medicine Buddha, meditation, green Tara, white Tara, blue Tara, there's one more, Vajrapani, and there's one more. So I've taken vows in these other, what they call yidams, or spiritual principles. So they don't believe in gods and goddesses, but they believe in higher principles that you can aspire to. So a yidam is not a real deity. It's a spiritual principle that you want to aspire to. So I took vows in Medicine Buddha, because not that I wanted to be the Medicine Buddha, or I even thought I was the Medicine Buddha, but I was chosen by my Tibetan teachers. You are a Medicine Buddha. They chose me, and they said, we're going to initiate you in this, and you're going to take these vows, and you're going to do these things. So the Medicine Buddha Medicine Buddha vow is to help one person in the morning and one person in the evening. That's one vow. The second vow was to feed the hungry and clothe the cold. Well, anybody who knows me personally knows I feed everybody. And I've been doing that for 18 years. I feed people. You come to my house, if you're a patient, I'm cooking for me, I'm cooking for you. If you're a friend and you drop by at dinner, I'm going to feed you. So I feed people who are hungry, but I feed their minds. I not only feed their bellies, I feed their minds. And then the third vow, which is very curious, which is to help women who've been abused by men. Now this is 500 BC. This is 2,500 years ago. Help women abused by men? That completely blew me away. I'm thinking abuse of women has got to be recent. But no, women were being abused 2,500 years ago. Wow, that's completely bonkers as far as I'm concerned. So then I had to delve more deeply into reincarnation and why people hurt other people. What is the basis for man's inhumanity to man, and how we can reverse that? So I went deep into meditation. For 5 years, I talked to a lot of Tibetan teachers, a lot of monks and yogis, in order to find out where this self-hatred, because if you hate other people, it really means you hate yourself. And if you abuse other people, if you are mean and unkind and rude and ungrateful to other people, it means you are doing that to yourself. If you're judging others, you're judging yourself. So I have compassion when I see people who are arrogant or egotistical. I realize they're hiding an insecurity complex. Arrogant people don't feel like they deserve, because the reality is, if you really were better than me, you would try to help me. If you thought I was ignorant and you were smart, you would try to help me gain insight and awareness so I could raise my level of intelligence. But if you put me down because you think I'm ignorant, if you think that I don't have whatever it takes to make it, if you actually believe that in your heart of hearts, it means you don't have it. And that's the reason why I'm so compassionate to so many people, that other people think, why are you being nice to that guy? He's such an a-hole. And I'm like, because at one point in a previous life, I was that guy. I was that a-hole. And that's how I can recognize it. So if you can't see God in everyone, then you cannot see God at all, because we're all created by God. Now, I know somebody's going to ask me, you're talking about Buddhism and God. What are you talking about here? Well, Buddhism technically is not a religion. It's a way of life. It's a way of measuring where you are with the reality of nature. I'm going to say that again because I said it fast, and I really want you to get this point. Buddhism technically is not a religion. I'm going to say it 3 times. Buddhism technically is not a religion. It's a measurement of where you are in relationship to the true nature of reality. It's a measurement of where you are in relationship to the true nature of reality. So, am I angry? Am I fearful? Am I sad? Am I lonely? Do I feel abandoned, rejected? Do I feel abused? Wow. Do I feel betrayed? Wow. So the Buddhists, the Dalai Lama has said 100,000 times, you can be Jewish and Buddhist. You can be Catholic and Buddhist. There's no contradiction, because Buddhism does not ask you to give up your beliefs in relationship to God. Buddhism does not ask you to give up your beliefs in relationship to God. That means Buddhism is not a religion. It's a way of life. It's a way of practicing how to live higher, how to be a higher being, how to express a higher love. So when I talk about doing an emotional enema, that is a Buddhist practice. And when I talk about acu-tapping, it's an actual Chinese medicine psychiatry practice to break the neural patterns of addiction to pain and suffering. If my father abused me and I'm angry at my father, and I go my whole life hating my father, and then my father dies, does my anger go away? Absolutely not. So now I'm going to take that anger and I'm going to express that anger towards someone else or something else. So what we have to do in our acu-tapping is become aware of where we're holding that anger inside. And then we use an acupressure tapping method to release that anger, that frustration, that resentment, that shame, that blame, that guilt, all those things that we hold inside of our bodies. And we use that to get it out of our brains. That is part of having an emotional enema. Okay? So, holistic motivator, do we have any questions?
No questions so far.
No questions. They must be loving this information then.
I think you should just keep going.
Okay, so Buddhism is not a religion. So how do you measure where you are in relationship to the true nature of reality? Well, number one, you cannot make sense out of nonsense. The only thing you know is what your environment provides for you. The only thing you know is your family dynamic until you go to school. The only thing you know is how your peer groups interact with you. The only thing you know is what happens when you go to Sunday school or synagogue school or Muslim school. Those are the only things you know is in relationship to your environment. And until you leave that environment and go to a completely different environment, you can't know anything else. So the only thing we know is what we know. You can't know what you don't know. And what we don't know would fill 10,000 encyclopedias and 10 million libraries on 10 million planets. What we know is less than a millionth of 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 a millionth. That's 9 millionths. That's what we don't know. Or that's what we do know. Less than that. So the Buddhists say, why are we talking about God when we cannot know the definition? We cannot agree on a definition of God, but we do know the human body. So let's study the body. That's the one thing we do know. And if we can all agree that God created us, then let's study the creation, and maybe we get a little window into the true nature of reality. So, emotional enema.
But somebody asked, how do you deal with anger?
That's an excellent question. Somebody asked, how do you deal with anger? Well, the first thing is you have to acknowledge that you are angry. The second thing, you have to express your anger in a healthy way. So you could write it out, I'm angry. You could yell it out. You could look in the mirror. You could get a pillow and a belt and you could beat the pillow. You could get a dress dummy and a plastic bat and you can beat that. You could go running. You could lift weights. You can go bicycling. You can play tennis. You can play paddleball. There's any number of healthy ways that you can get the anger out of your body. But you have to express the anger. And then you can say, am I angry at them or am I angry at me? Am I angry at the situation or am I angry at myself for creating the situation? Am I angry at my parent for what my perception was of how they treated me? Or am I angry at myself for allowing that from my parents? Okay? So there's a lot of stuff to go around. And then when you can be clear about what you are actually angry about, is it me or them, or is it both? Once you own your part of it, then you can express compassion towards yourself by letting it go. You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. So being angry is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Being angry is like setting your house on fire, expecting their house to burn down. So anger doesn't solve anything. So anger must be first transformed into compassion for you. Give yourself compassion. Then try to extend that compassion to understanding why that person did that thing that made you so angry. And then you can transform that into action. So we transform anger into compassion, and then compassion into action. The liver is damaged by anger, and the liver likes love. The liver craves love. The heart wants peace, but the liver wants love. So I love my daughter, and my daughter won't do what I want her to do. So I express anger at my daughter because I love her and I can't control her and I can't manipulate her and I can't make her be or act the way I want her to be or act. So it is from my love that I'm expressing anger. What a contradiction! That's crazy. And all parents get angry at their kids for that very reason. And all kids get angry at their parents for that very reason. You won't do what I want you to do, so I'm going to express my anger instead of expressing love. And if we learned how to express love instead of anger, wow, we would shift everything. We would shift everything. And that's all I want for you, is to shift. Shift your anger into compassion and shift into love.
Evan Raver asks, how does healing work in the body?
Wow, that is a big question. That's like an encyclopedic answer. How does healing work in the body? Okay, I'm going to give you the 30-second answer. I don't know if that'll satisfy you, Evan, but okay. So the premise of Chinese medicine is based on the circulation of electromagnetically charged blood. Anything that interferes with that flow of blood and oxygenated blood will eventually cause disruption, stagnation, inflammation, and disease. So to answer your question is, how do you create healing? You have to get rid of the disruption. You have to get rid of the stagnation, get rid of the inflammation. Well, how does one do that? Well, there's breathing, there's meditation, there's internal exercise, there's massage, there's food, there's herbs, there's heat, there's pressure, there's sound, there's light, there's magnets, electricity, there's scraping and suction. And all of that creates healing in the body. Are there other methods? Of course there are. But that's the simplest answer I could give you.
And Eileen says she's going to cleanse the liver.
Qigong to clean the liver.
Clean the liver.
Now that's another excellent question. Okay. Does your liver need to be cleansed? Or does it need to be detoxified? Or do you just want to have a free and clear liver? What is it that you want for your liver? So the liver controls the muscles and the tendons. The liver stores the blood. Now, if your muscles are tense and tight, what happens to the blood? It cannot flow. So we need to have the muscles relaxed. So we contract, we expand, we contract, we expand. So the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments have to be able to relax. Now, how do we clean the liver with Qigong, or just how do we clean the liver?
This thing would just cleanse the liver with Qigong.
With Qigong, okay. Then you have to move. You've got to move the body. So if you register for the online class. This morning I went through a detailed exercise called the liver dance. And there's 3 parts. One deals with suppression of anger, one deals with storing anger, and the other deals with drama. Because the liver likes love. And if we don't get the love that we think we deserve, then we create drama. So the liver dance is the thing I'm going to recommend for Qigong to cleanse the liver.
All right, that concludes the part. The 20 minutes.
Wow, that was great.
What's your
I
final
think
message?
so.
Tell people about the course, everything you got going on.
So Friday night, webinar, free, emotional enema. We're going to go through all the aspects of the emotional enema in the webinar. Number 2, podcast every day, 11 to 11:20. Tune in on Spotify, iTunes, Radio Play. There's one more. Facebook, Instagram. Oh, Anchor FM, anchor.fm/AskDrLove. So that's the podcast. And then the webinars are free every Friday night. But if you want access to the replay or the previous podcast, you have to go to patreon.com/DrQILOVE, Dr. Chi Love. And you will not regret it, because I am putting health literacy into your life. You should know where your 5 major organs are. You should know how your heart and lungs work to increase blood flow to the brain. You should learn how to think better, increase mental intention, focus, and will. So, loveqigong.com to get the online Qigong classes Monday through Friday. Patreon.com/Dr. Chi Love for the health literacy. And you're already on the podcast. And we're going to, starting Monday, starting a week from today, the newsletter will be out. The Blue Dragon World Qigong newsletter is going to come out every day, and that will be free. So remember, your health is in your hands. Prevention is the only cure. In order to be well, you've got to breathe well. Blue Dragon, signing off. Thanks to the holistic motivator and the entire Blue Dragon tribe. Until tomorrow.
Do you have time for 2 more questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Nadine Johnson asks, what to do for persistent anemia?
There's 3 different kinds of anemia, and that is a specifically medical question. And we are doing telemedicine these days. So if you call the telephone number 561-502-6200 and schedule an online consultation, it's only $50 for 30 minutes. And we can give you all the advice you need personally.
And the last question is, when is the best to take ashwagandha to relax emotions?
Okay, ashwagandha is also known as Indian ginseng. It's an Ayurvedic herb. Ashwagandha is an immunogen, an adaptogen, and it helps with stress. It helps with restoring energy when you're low, okay? I would not use it to balance emotions. So that would be not the proper use of ashwagandha.
All right, so that's it.
That's it.
Be sure to tune in tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Schedule your live for Dr. George Xavier Love, or find him Dr. George Love Oriental Medicine Facebook page. Thank you for watching.